because he was hitting the students. Students were dying, and he was hitting them. So Bahadri Ravina, but Ravina put him back in Layashkach the Havadaya Kavase because they didn't have another teacher that was so good. That doesn't sound good.
Small, talented. That would go over really well for me.
No students.
Huh?
Good teacher, but soon he won't have any students.
Right.
Really means says that they had a rabbi. They call him Rabbi Stick.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Hit them. You know?
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't know what this Gemara means. I don't have any explanation. Matami Lamesim, someone that's he's a kohen, but he goes to cemeteries. He makes himself contaminated. Gemara asks, it's interesting, if you look at what it said in the Mishnah, is that someone that marries women, he has to take a vow. Women that he's forbidden to marry, like a divorcee, but someone that goes into the cemetery, he just has to accept. So Gemara says, why over there is it a vow?
He intentionally goes to make himself?
Yeah, he doesn't care. He goes to the cemetery. So why over here does he take a vow, and over there he just has to accept? The Gemara explains that Hasam Yisri Takve, over there he has a Yetzirah. He wants to marry this woman or these women. And over here, he doesn't have a Yetzirah to go into the cemetery. He never took it serious. He said, big deal, it's a cemetery. Okay. Right. And he's convinced that it's a mitzvah. Okay. This is the 8th parak. Yesh b'chol enachla ve'ena b'chol akayin. There's such a thing that he's a firstborn for one aspect, but he's not a firstborn for another aspect. A friend of mine told me that he learned in the Parsha that Esav sold his birthright in this. So he said, he was the oldest boy, but he said he sold his birthright to his brother like many, many times for different cookies and different growing up. He just said, I'll give you the birth, because, they learned from the Chumash. If you give me the cookie, I'll give you the birthright.
This is Ishmael and Yitzchak also. Ishmael said them before, and
right.
Said that before.
Right. So there's different types of bechar, and it's relevant for different halachas. For example, one of the halachas is that a firstborn needs to have a pidyon ben, needs to be redeemed on the 31st day, 5 coins. The other halacha is that he gets a double portion of the inheritance. So if there's 2 children, you divide the portion into 3, and the bechar gets a double portion. So yesh bechar lenachla ve'ena bechar l'kayin. There's such a thing that he's a bechar to get the double portion, but he's not a bechar for pidyon ben. And just to simplify all of this before we get stuck in all of these details, is that a bechar for inheritance needs to be the father's firstborn, and it also needs to be the father's first child. Also needs to be someone that the father is concerned about. So in other words, if there was a stillborn before, if the father had a stillborn, he was never concerned about that child, so the next one is going to be the firstborn. The bechar for pidyon ben, to be redeemed, that doesn't have to be the father's firstborn. That's the mother, the opening of the womb of the mother. It's the firstborn for the mother. And then we have to get into what's considered opening the womb. If there was a miscarriage before, would the second one be the first one? Or we'll see all of those details. So bechar l'kayin ve'ena bechar l'nachla. There could also be a bechar for a kayin. That means he needs a pidyon ben, but he's not the firstborn for inheritance. Bechar l'nachla u'l'kayin. You could have both. He's a proper firstborn. And then you have Yeshen and Bechor Le'il Nachla V'Le'il. He's not a firstborn for either. You have 4 options here. Right? Mm-hmm. This and that and this, and then neither or both. Ezo Bechor Le'Nachla V'Eino Bechor L'Kayin. What's considered a Bechor for inheritance, but not for a Kayin? Habach and Nephalim. The way Rashi puts this, I don't understand it perfectly, but the way Rashi puts this is that there's twins. One of them is full term and one of them isn't. I don't know how that works. Okay.
Even for purposes of opinion of benefit, mother had a miscarriage once before she doesn't do opinion of benefit.
Right. You have to see the exact detail in that, because how old does the baby, the miscarriage need to be? So what happened was, let me read another 3 words here. Shiyatzes Reishechai. The first baby put out its head alive, then came back in. Now the next one is born. So, because the first one was not a full term, so it was going to die, the Gemara considers that an animal from the 8th month, that it's not going to survive anyway. So the father was never concerned about the life of this one because it wasn't going to survive. So even though the head is considered a birth, but it's not considered someone that the father would be grieved about, because he knew it was already dead, even though right now it was alive, but he knew it was going to die. So therefore, when the next one comes out, that's considered the first one that the father would grieve about, that's considered the birth. Uben tisha shiyatzarei shemes. Or let's say it was a full term, but it came out dead. And so the following child is going to be a firstborn for inheritance. Let's say the woman gives birth to something that doesn't have the form of a human. It looks like an animal or a wild animal or a bird. All of those would be a bechor, the child afterwards. That's not considered opening the womb. No, that would be someone that the father wasn't grieved over. So therefore, the following one would be the firstborn for inheritance. Some say no. That if this didn't have a form of a human, then not only is it a bechor for inheritance, the one that comes afterwards, but it's even a bechor for the kohen, the following one. Hamapela sandal eshilya eshpir merukim. If the woman gives birth to something that doesn't have a face, it's just without any. There's no. Is that what it says? Shmush. I'm imagining. You remember there was a book about the Mishkan, and they didn't want to put the faces of the kohen in there, so they just had like a wood. Remember those pictures? It was an old book. And anyway, there was no features.
Is it those 2 kids, like twins? One just crushes the other one.
Oh, that could be. Or Shilyo was just the afterbirth, or Shpir Merukim, or it was just the skin of the child, and it's torn up. That's where it's cut up. The one that's come after them, those are the firstborn for inheritance, but not for the kohen. Someone that doesn't have children, a man. And then he goes and he marries a woman that had children already. So, or another case, she had a child, but while she was a maidservant, and now she's free. She had a child before she converted, and now she converted and she has another child. Mishabasal Yisrael Yalda, and then when she converts, she has a new child. So Bechor Lenachla, the father never had any children, so this new child would be the first of his. It would be a first for inheritance. Bein Bechor Lekayin, but because this woman already had children before, so it's not a Bechor for a Kayin. However, Rabbi Yosei Glili Aimer Bechor Lenachla Lekayin. Basically, it says it's for a Kayin as well. Why? Shneimar Peterachem Yisrael. has to be an opening of the womb amongst the Jews. And this, yes, they had opening of the womb, but she wasn't Jewish. Ashiftu Rechem Yisrael has to be Yisrael. The Yisrael when she's Jewish. Misha Banim, someone that had children already, a man. V'nasi Isha Shlayolda, and he marries a woman that never had any children. Niskaira Meuberes. She converted while she's pregnant. Nishtachra Meuberes. She was released from being a slave when she was pregnant. V'yolda, and now she gives birth. Or another case, he v'kayhenes. This man or this woman has a child, and at the same time, kayhenes has a child, and they get mixed up. He or Leviah, or she has a child and Leviah has a child, they get mixed up. He v'isha shekvar yolda, or any woman that already had given birth once, and they get mixed up. Or a woman that got divorced and she marries another man, but she didn't wait 3 months. So we don't know. Could be she was pregnant before. And she gets married, B'yolda, and now she has a child. We don't know to who the father is. If it's a 7-month for the new one, or if it's a 9-month from the old one. So B'chor l'Kohen, it's a firstborn for the Kohen, but Einam B'chor l'Nachla, it's not a firstborn for inheritance. Now in this last case, it's even worse than that, because in this last case, it's not even a regular for inheritance, because all the kids are going to say you belong to the other family. So it's even worse than that. But the idea here is that it's a firstborn for a Kohen.
We didn't mention Syrian.
Right, that wasn't mentioned yet. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says something that doesn't fit with what we learned, and we're going to say that it's a tiyufta de Shmuel. Shmuel says, "Ein reish paiter b'nefalim." If the head is born, and then another animal comes out, not animal. 1 second. Let's do this again. Shmuel says, if the head comes out of the first baby, human, the head comes out, but the body doesn't come out. The head goes back in, and then the next one is born. If the first one was a nafel, if the first one was only an 8-month term, it wasn't the full 9 months. So we say that wasn't considered a birth. I'm sorry. We say ein hareish paiter b'nefalim. We say that wasn't considered a birth, and then only the next one is considered the firstborn. My taima. What's the reason for this? Anything that has a spirit of life in its nostrils, only if it has the spirit of life, then its head is considered a birth. But otherwise, we don't count the head as considered born. Come on, ask 1 second. Tanana was taught in the Mishnah. If the head comes out alive, we said that it was not a bechar for a kohen. If the head came out alive, we said it was a bechar for inheritance because the father wasn't concerned about the firstborn. But we said it's not a firstborn for the kohen because the head already opened the womb. It doesn't fit with what Shmuel says. Shmuel says the head isn't counted because it was going to die. So the Gemara answers, Ben Tisha Shiatz Reishi Meis. Ketani Mia Reishai, we said the head. That means the head was a birth concerning for the kohen. My Reishai, what does it mean the head? Rubai. It doesn't really mean the head, it means the majority of the body. Gemara says, 1 second. It doesn't say that. Listen, Rubai. Why doesn't it just say the majority of the body? It says no. Really, it could have said the majority of the body. Yes, and that would have been exactly what we're talking about. That when is it considered a birth? Only if the majority of the body comes out, but not if the head comes, just the head. Why did we say the head? Because I did Kabbalah Misnei Seifa, because in the second case, we had 2 cases here. And we wanted to make it symmetrical. And in the second case, we spoke about a full-term baby that's born. But we said that over there, that if the head comes out dead, that was not considered a firstborn for, that was considered that it's a birth for the mother. And the one afterwards doesn't need a pidyon aben. So over there we said Ben Tisha Shiatz Reishi Meis. Over there we needed to say the head. because that was the halacha. If the head comes out, it's already considered a birth. Time of the Reish Meis. What's the reason why it's a birth? Because it was dead. Hareish Chai. But if it would be alive, what would be regarding the inheritance? Then Haba Achrav B'chol Nachla Nami Leihavi. Then the one that comes afterwards wouldn't be a Bechor for Nachla, wouldn't be a Bechor for an inheritance either, because the first one the father was concerned of, and it was a birth. So the one, if the head comes back in, and then the next one is born, the following child would be nothing. Not a Bechor for inheritance, not a Bechor. So that halacha only applies, that halacha applies to the head being born. So Tananami Roshai, so therefore the Reisha also says Roshai, the head. Even though really the head being born is not the birth. My Kamashmalan, what are you trying to tell me? Even the Mapikle Reisha Avaleda, you're trying to tell me that the head is considered the birth. Tanina, it was taught by an animal. We're talking about the Ben Pekua, Dr. Stein. The Ben Pekua, if you shech the animal and the head is out, it's considered born. If you're going to tell me that maybe you only taught that by an animal, you didn't teach it by a human, you have to say over here by a human. If I went to learn a human from an animal, the less like Preisdar, because the way the animal gives birth is it gives birth not between the legs. So I would say that the animal is born immediately when the head comes out. But by the human, it would need to come out fully. So behema miyadam layalf,
anatomy difference, right?
Right. And the animal I wouldn't learn from a human either. Mishum dechashiv parts of panim diday, because by the human, if you said it, I would say, well, the face of the human is considered the significant part, but by the animal, the face is not the significance. It's the whole animal. See, I wouldn't, if it said it by the human, I wouldn't know it over there. So the Gemara says, 1 second, but I also have this halacha said by a human. Hanami tanina, yatsa kedarkai, if it comes out with head first, not breech. So, misha yatsa roiv roishai, once the majority of the head comes out, beza roiv roishai, misha teitza padachta. What is the majority of the head once the far head comes out? Tifta tishmol tifta. So now we have a question. Because if we would say that the head is considered a birth by a nefel, so then that itself would be a chiddush. But if you want to tell me that by a nefel the head is not the birth, then really everything here is just telling me that you need the majority to come out. If you're going to tell me that you need the majority, so why does it say the head by the 9 months? Because to teach me that you need the head, it says 1 second, the head we already know. The head we already know by a living, by a full term that's the birth. If you would be telling me, even by a nefel that's the birth, that would be the chiddush. So that is what the Mishnah is telling me. So then we have a kasha on Shmuel that says that the head by a nefel is not the birth, that says it's not the birth. We don't know what the chiddush of the Mishnah is. Okay, let's stop.
What do they do with the story of Yehudim tomorrow, where the kid puts his hand out to have it tied? Because he put his hand out first, he's the firstborn?
Was that